say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous line o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the and the home of the does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the and the home of the
Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I'm your host, April Chapman, and welcome to live stream number 2. Y'all, I am on a roll today. Welcome to all of you guys in the live chat. I don't know how many of you had an opportunity to check my earlier live stream out. I had congressional candidate Everett Jackson on, who is running as a Republican in TX30. And you guys, that was really a really good interview. It's been a while since I've had a guest on. And usually, listen, I ain't gonna lie. Having guests are hard for me because I have the attention span of a flea. I really do. And I probably have ADHD. It's just undiagnosed, and I just do a really good job of managing it well. But I think I did okay. I think the interview was really informative. It was transformative. It was educational, and it really gave you guys, my audience, an opportunity to be exposed to the other candidate that's running as a Republican. And it is incumbent upon you to do your research and choose the individual that you believe is best suited for that role. But please, by all means, do not vote for the Democrats. So as time progresses and we get closer to the primary in Texas, I will probably do a little bit more coverage on my own of Freddie Haynes, who is one of the Democrats that are running for Jasmine Crockett's former seat as she runs for Senate. I am confident that she's going to lose there. But if you missed it and you were still at work, the video is up. It is live. After this live stream, I want you to go ahead and check it out. It really is a good interview. I think we got a lot of meaningful answers out of that candidate. And I want to thank him once again, Mr. Everett Jackson, for coming on to the podcast and for Ajwa for coordinating all of that for me. Now, welcome to tonight's live stream, and we are going to talk about some politics. And actually, tonight's topic is absolutely political, but there is a social and a cultural component to it. So it actually touches base on so many of the categories that I tend to cover on this show. So the first thing you need to do, go and get yourself something to drink. This might be a long one, okay? You might want to take a little hiatus and come back. Don't forget to like this video. This one is super important. I want you to share it with your tribe. And I actually want you to engage in the comments, because what I'm going to do, while we're not going to analyze the entire expose done by fellow YouTuber Nick Shirley, I am going to react and show some segments from that investigative piece, which I think are incredibly critical to this story. So what we're going to do, as long as you guys got that out the way, and one of the channel faves, Miss Ruth, you guys, lives in the state of Minnesota. And she lives in Minneapolis. And so shout out to you, Sister Ruth. She's one of my day ones. She is a friend of the channel. She has been talking about the corruption that's been going on in her city for a while. So I know she is particularly interested in what this story is going to reveal. So, oh wow, you, Jennifer, you too are also in Minnesota. Shout out to those in Minnesota living under the oppressive reign of Tampon Tim Walz as your governor. What's interesting to me though is that you guys do know that fraud like this doesn't just happen in a vacuum. Like, the only way something like this was allowed to happen is for politicians and local municipal leaders to look the other way. Because if you know anything about running a daycare centers are incredibly regulated. For example, when I was growing up, when my mother went back to work and had to come up with a plan for childcare right before I started school, the lady in our building who lived on the second floor, Mrs. Gay, rest her soul, wonderful Christian woman, she chose to babysit several of the neighborhood children. So, like where I grew up in the Bronx, over off of, shout out to Story Avenue and Bruckner Boulevard, it's this strip, maybe 2-3 miles long, of several privately owned high-rise buildings. So I grew up on Morrison, and then you had Boynton, then you had Colgate, then you had Evergreen. When we moved, we were staying with my mom. Miss Gay lived in Morrison, but you had children from Boynton and Colgate and Soundview who she had maybe like 10 or 12 of us at one time. Some of us who were too young, like me when I was 4 and I was unable to start kindergarten, I was there from the morning until the evening. And then she had an after school crew of kids who either went to like Holy Cross, the private school, or who went to the local PS 93 that was down the street at 3 o'clock. It would be like one of the older kids of the community would pick up maybe 5 kids and drop them off at Mrs. Gay's. There was no regulation, no license, no permit. It was literally an older retired woman who absolutely loved children, and she was helping out the parents and the single moms in the community. Y'all, she charged my mama $4 a week. Now, I'm old, but I ain't that old to where $4 was a lot of money. It wasn't. She charged us $4, but I'm pretty sure she charged other parents a little bit more. But the point I'm making when I bring up that story is that those days are long gone where you had the neighborhood lady who you knew your whole life and trusted. And if you needed childcare, you and her had an arrangement. Hey, Miss So and so, I'll give you this amount per week. And she's like, fine, just bring the meals and I will keep your baby safe. Those days are long gone because Democrat policies, bureaucracy, and just big government squashed all of that. So now the older woman who's on a fixed income who could use that extra money now has to jump through all of this regulatory rigmarole to get a permit and to get a license and to make sure, her space is, and I'm not saying that there's no value in that. What I'm saying is that capitalism and competition was crushed the moment big government steps in, and now the community can no longer care for itself. It's now a provider, right? So you had the daycare centers spring up, who we were told that this is for your safety, right? We're going to come in and we're going to regulate it and we're going to make sure your kid is learning XYZ, which was another way for them to infiltrate and teach them what they think your child was supposed to learn. But it took a lot of the parental control out, and it took the money out of the community that even though Miss So-and-so may have been on Social Security, she was able to make the amount of money needed so that she could either keep her home or supplement her own income in her retirement years by adding value to the marketplace, which was safe childcare for your children. Those days are long gone. So when a story like this comes out of Minnesota, for nobody to have known that these daycare centers exist, I don't believe that, because daycares are highly regulated. They show up whenever they want to make sure everything is how it's supposed to be and that the cleanliness standards are there. There's supposed to be inspections. How is it this many daycare centers flew under the radar? Some of which had signage with misspellings. And you mean to tell me that nobody knew? Yeah, I don't believe that. I just don't believe it. So I am covering this for a myriad of reasons because I love exposing corruption. But the point I'm trying to get to is that in Minnesota, where they have these daycare centers pulling in millions of dollars, and the biggest thing being nurtured inside of these buildings were dark tinted windows, right? No kids, no playgrounds, no parents, just a locked door, blacked out windows, and a sign. I'm going to show it to you guys that was supposed to say learning, but it was spelled like a third grader wrote it during snack time. Okay. And what's also unsettling about this is that the media was like, well, so anyway, did you guys hear something about someone calling somebody a mean name on the internet? Meaning they're putting up all kinds of deflections, trying to get the public to look the other way. You guys, this isn't a little bit of fraud. This is industrial scale, government enabled, you heard me right, thievery. And the American taxpayer, y'all, we're the piñata, right? They're just beating up on us and making it rain, spending the money the way they want. They looked the other way. And even though I personally can't prove it, you can't tell me that Tim Walz, the Attorney General of the state, Ilhan Omar, the funky little mayor who was eating all the Somalian food that he know was nasty, and then everybody in that local municipality, do not tell me they did not know about this. Oh, I believe they knew. And before someone else tries to come to say that I am making this about ethnicity, this is about criminal networks, weak oversight, and political cowardice. And the fact that some people have learned how to take our kindness for weakness and they have figured out how to rob the system blind. As long as we can slap equity on it as a label, then they're like, let's go ahead and run up the tab and take these Americans for every single red cent. So we're going to talk about it tonight. So, YouTuber Nick Shirley, who I did not know who he was before a couple of days ago, had went out with a citizen, just a regular citizen, out in Minnesota. And this gentleman and his investigative counterpart is out here doing what legacy media has refused to do, which is show up in person and ask the most basic question imaginable, which was, where are the children? Now, I believe that there was there could have been a different way they could have done this. They should have showed up with little Joey. Like, they really needed to grab somebody's little cousin, tell him for the day, you're going to ride along with us. Your name going to be Joey. They should have showed up with little Joey in hand. I would have loved to see how the people reacted when they showed up to these daycare centers if they had actually had a child with them, right? But if you are receiving taxpayer money for childcare, there should be, I don't know, children in the facilities, right? I mean, call me black and slow. I don't know. If I show up to a daycare, the expectation is there are going to be children here, right? But as you're going to see in this expose, clip after clip, they are standing outside of buildings that are licensed for dozens of kids, sometimes over 100. And these facilities are locked up like Fort Knox. Okay, the windows are blacked out, ain't nobody's there. And the few times that somebody did answer the door, it was just like, no habla inglés, right? They just playing real dumb, acting slow, like they don't know what's going on. But the only thing I noticed that was open is the government's checkbook. How does that work out? That they're getting all this money, but the services that they are being paid to provide, it doesn't look like those services are being rendered. So, before we go further, if you are familiar with what's going on in Minnesota, and Sister Ruth can probably attest to this, Minnesota already has a documented track record of large fraud cases. First, we had the Feeding Our Future. That was the federal child nutrition fraud that was happening there. And this involved over around $250 million. And it has produced this long list of indictments and convictions. And then more recently, federal and state reports have highlighted multiple Medicaid related programs with serious fraud concerns. And so one of those was the Housing Stabilization Services. And then they done figured out how to scheme with the autism. Okay, you had the autism service scheme. So this is wide sweeping fraud that's been uncovered. So when people see a viral video of daycares with no kids, this lands in a state where the public is already being told that fraud is a huge problem. However, what does the left say when we bring all of this up? They're like, well, you trust the system. And you're like, no, I don't want to. The system is out here either wearing a ski mask or a hijab, yelling at us, telling us to come back later when we go there to enroll our children. So let me share my screen. And to my right or your left, or don't worry about the directional, the little young one. This is Nick Shirley. You guys, he is a YouTuber, and this is an individual who is a native to Minneapolis who has been investigating this for a while. So let's take a look to see what they're going to talk about.
What are we looking at?
The areas of fraud that I have numbers for are mostly related to childcare. This is massive fraud that is beyond anyone's imagination, the scope. And so, for example, there's a childcare not far from here in Minneapolis that has two childcares listed at the same address. And together, they're licensed supposedly for 120 children. I have never seen a single child there ever, and I've been by that place at least 100 times.
These Somalians, these groups are setting up these daycares, these childcare centers, getting money from the government, but there's no kids.
No kids. Never had any of them. They're all fraught with violations, and even though they have these violations, they're still in operation and they're still getting money. And it's millions of dollars for every one of them every year.
And who's getting the money? And where are they getting the money from?
So we have a thing called CCAP. It's a blend of federal and state money. The bottom line is it's taxpayer money, so it's state money and it's federal money. And the problem is the people at the state of Minnesota are the ones writing the checks. This is kind of the maddening thing is you have daycare, so you have adult daycare, and then you have child care, and then you have health care. And a lot of these same names keep coming up on all of these different types of businesses. And then, of course, we have the transportation, and a lot of those same names appear, a lot of the same addresses. There's one building that has 14 Somali healthcare companies at the same address. There's another building in St. Paul that has 22 Somali healthcare businesses at the same address.
And the government knows about this.
The government knows, they're writing the checks. Yeah, the Democrats over there just writing the checks. What has happened is that the Somali community is a very closed community. They will not speak to anyone outside the community and talk about what's going on within the community. They vote as a block. And so when you're a politician, you're saying, look, I've got 100,000 people in Minnesota that if I do something for the community, they're going to vote for me. And that's what it's all about, is getting the votes. And then the people here in Minnesota, you hear this term, Minnesota nice. I'm so sick of that term. The people here are so afraid of being called a racist or an Islamophobe, and they're afraid of their own shadow.
Listen, I'm going to say this, and my goal is to not be offensive, but the goal of what I'm about to say is empowerment. If you watch this show and you are white and you claim to be a Christian, the last thing you need to be worried about is someone calling you a daggone racist. I am so sick and tired of my white brethren taking upon in their bosom the guilt, the misdirected and false accusation that every time that you levy criticism, that it's because you are racist. I don't know what you need to do, if you need to write out a script to be able to apologetically defend yourself. But as a believer, you need to say, I am standing on the authority of truth and observable reality. And I don't give a darn what you call me. I've been called worse by somebody better, and his name is Jesus. So you keep your name calling. And being called a racist is not the worst thing in the world, but I am trying to figure out, at what point did white America weaken itself to where someone calling you racist now causes you to retreat and crawl up in a shell because the last thing you want to be called is a racist? If you name the name of Christ, I understand pagans don't have an objective authority to appeal to, but if you are a believer, you don't need to be, and the argument is true for my black brethren who have spent decades of their life being worried about what the alleged white supremacist thinks about them. So my criticism is levied to both groups. Since when have you ever been called to be concerned about how man views you? Your only concern should be, what does God say about me? How does God view me? Am I walking upright before him? Because he's the only one that can discern the thoughts and intentions of your heart. So if you are in Minnesota and you've been silent about this because these people are from Somalia, which is in Africa, which at the end of the day, if you were to say something, they're gonna be like, oh, you're just saying this because it's your white privilege talking. You need to stand with the authority of the Holy Spirit and some Holy Ghost boldness and look these people in the eye and say, keep your ad hominem attack, because it's not gonna work here. This is my daggone money. I pay into this system and I deserve some accountability. But this is where identity politics and this DEI foolishness and all of this Marxist categorization of race and intersectionality, this is what got us here. You're so afraid. To me, it is cowardice. And if these people continue and this type of fraud continues to happen and you don't say nothing because you're worried about somebody calling you racist, then when they take over your whole state, this is your fault. It is absolutely your fault. The doctrine of the 11th commandment of thou shalt be nice. I don't know which commandment that is. But speaking the truth is not the same as being a racist. Take that. I don't know what it's going to take for you to free yourself of that burden, but you need to free yourself of that burden. Who gives a darn what they think about you? God is only concerned, and he's the only one that matters. And any sort of criticism that's levied towards you, and if the first thing they try to do is say it's because you're racist, that lets you know they don't have a defense. And you need to call them out and say, what we're not going to do is deflect. And you try to bring ethnicity into this. You know darn well these people are taking advantage of the system, and this is fraudulent. So if you can use race as a shield if you want to, but I'm free in Jesus. So I don't have anything to hide, and I'm not going to allow you to place that yoke of bondage around my neck so that you can avoid the criticism. That's what you need to rise up and do and say. The blood of the forefathers run in your veins. Channel that. I mean, that's probably the wrong thing to say. We don't want to channel spirits of the dead, but at least borrow from the courage of your forefathers who, at the end of the day, weren't going to allow anyone to come over into this land, the land that is spilt with the blood of Union soldiers for freedom, and then allow some dusty feet Somalians to come and take your money? You got to be kidding me. Absolutely not.
Don't understand. This is our future generations are going to have to pay for all this fraud, and they just want to bury their heads in the sand and go on and just not worry about it. Tim Walz saying there's organized crime in Minnesota. What did he do about it? Nothing. You got organized crime? What are you doing? This is the Minnesota law, which mandates that anyone who knows of fraud and is a state employee must report that fraud. It's Minnesota Statute 3.971, Subdivision 9. Not only that, but Walz is also guilty of misconduct of a public employee. When I look at the world as a whole and I look at fraud, the Twin Cities is ground zero. The fraud is worse here than anywhere else ever in history. Anywhere.
We're going to go.
All right. Let me grab some of these super chats. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Shout out to you, Cooler King. Hello from Kentucky. Welcome. Glad you're joining us tonight. We also have Anthony Davis. Shout out to you. Good work today, sis. He says, April, man, I just found out the Somalis in Minneapolis, was sending money to a House candidate out here in Washington State. A Somali was just elected county exec here. Listen, I was just about to say, I just saw on X where a lot of this money and the same type of patterns of fraud is now being discovered in the state of Washington. Y'all think this is a game? Praise God for this man here who has the courage to say, this is about the future of our children. Okay? So I wanted to show that clip, and I have another clip that I want to show you. So let me fast forward to the 7-minute mark. Take a look at this.
Noon. Where are we going now?
We're going to a place called Mako Child Care, which actually has another child care registered at the same address called Mini Child Care Center.
So we should see lots of children if there's this child care center, especially if there's two.
The two of them combined are licensed for 120.
And how much money have these child care centers received?
None of those vans have moved in 6 months. None of them. In 2020, one of them received $1.3 million. In 2021, they got $987,000. In 2022, they got $714,000. That's the last I have for that one. And then the other one, $1.604 million in fiscal year 2025. Fiscal year 2024, they got about $800,000, and in fiscal year 2023, they got $904,059. This place right here. Yes.
We're outside of it.
Well, this is
y'all. So far, we're at $5,242,191. Did you see All those minivans with the little magnets on, these vans don't move and go anywhere. And listen, I don't know about the state of Georgia. I mean, the state of Minnesota, but here in Georgia, it is the daycare industry, to me, in my opinion, is overregulated. It is overregulated. It is difficult and expensive. If you want to provide childcare, for you to get the proper insurance, because they need to see the kind of vehicle that it is, and then they want certain standards to be met regarding the facility. And here it just seems like these folks are in warehouses and in commercial, industrial light locations, and you can't see in. You don't know what's going on. No one is seeing any children come in and out. But all this money is going and being funneled to these Somalians. And my question is, if there are no kids there, what y'all think they're doing with this money? Taking our kindness from weakness because of our weak and horrible immigration laws, particularly during 2020, 2021, and 2022. Who was in charge? This was a huge money grab because they knew they could get away with it, because we had a Democratic president. Obviously, they have a Democrat governor. The mayor's a Democrat. All of these Democrats are implicated, and they knew. Don't tell me they didn't know. The AG, a Democrat. At the local level, the department who issues these business licenses, I can guarantee you they are just approving and issuing these business licenses, and they're not doing inspections, and they're not checking. They're not.
Actually, 2 daycares are registered here. One of them is Mako, which you see on the sign. The other one is Mini Child Care Center. And between the two of these child care centers, they're pulling in about $3 million a year. And there are no children. Every facility that you go to, the windows will be blocked out so you can't see in. There's nobody here. You won't see a single child at any of these facilities.
There are indeed no windows. All the windows are blacked out right here. All right, let's go in.
That should be some sort of local code, ordinance, or violation. Let me tell y'all something. I think I'm getting so upset. I'm so hyped because for 11 years, I ran a public-facing business, and it was a furniture store. We actually, at the height of our business, we had 2 locations, a distribution center. We had 2 locations and a distribution center. And the red tape that we had to run through, I ended up having to move my whole distribution center to the next town because these idiots refused to issue me a business license and wanted me to spend thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to implement some sort of fire retardation system, because it was furniture and I was housing mattresses, and it was like they were making it up as they went along. The owner of the building at the time was a known conservative, and he was a Trump supporter. And the county in which I lived in, no matter what tenant he would put into this warehouse, they refused to issue a business license. We were in that facility almost close to a year, fighting with the county back and forth until finally we just gave up. It was such a good location. The landlord was so kind to us, gave us all kinds of concessions. And he was like, every time I try to put a tenant in here, they make up a reason why this class of business is a problem. And he was like, I think they're doing it to me on purpose. Do you know, we ended up, he was like, I hate this, but he was like, the amount of money that they are claiming for this state-of-the-art system that they want in here is too cost prohibitive. I'm not expecting you guys to pay it, and I'm not going to do it. So if you want to break your lease, go ahead. He lets us out of our lease. We end up moving into another warehouse in another county. And within a year, he tried to get someone else in that building. They gave her the same problem, but made up another reason. Eventually, he was like, I'm done. I'm tired of fighting with you guys. And he ends up selling the building. And then we had an election and new leadership came in. And she leans more conservative. But when I tell you that Democrats do this on purpose, this story bothers me because when you have good people, this gentleman, the landlord that we had, American Patriot, he owned it was a huge warehouse facility, and he sold like motorcycle parts and ATVs and things like that. And on the other side, he had subdivided it into 2 other suites. And he was like, you guys can have this suite. And it was perfect for our needs. It had the office space that we needed. It had the warehouse space that we needed. It had the dock that we needed. And about 8 months in, we had to pack up and completely move because the county, they didn't like his politics. So this is why I know that there are regulations and ordinances. How is it that a daycare center is allowed to have blacked out windows? That in and of itself is a violation. That is not normal. The one time I wanted to put up a banner for a weekend to advertise a mattress sale, these fools gave me a stack of papers talking about you need to fill this out and you need a permit. I was like, wait a minute. So you mean tell me I need a permit? I just want to have a mattress blowout sale to get rid of some old inventory. And to put up this banner, not a permanent fixture, a banner, I need a permit. They were like, well, you could put it up like Friday close of business, but it would need to be down by Sunday because when code enforcement comes by, they're going to make you take it down. I was like, so basically I can't run a sale. So I got to pay you money for permission to put up a banner just advertising a sale. They were like, yes. And I was like, this is why small businesses can't, this is why this county can't attract small businesses and people in the community who own a small business, who just want to provide a product or a service and they've got a way to get paid. This stifles growth. All because of foolishness like this. So do not tell me these Democrats did not know about this. Let's keep watching.
And the child care center is locked. Should we ring the doorbell? Yeah. Try to get in, rang the doorbell. Nobody showed up. They're open 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. it says here on their sign, yet there's absolutely nobody here. And this building here, right here, has generated millions of dollars, and it seems like business isn't even open right now, and it's a weekday. And if this
so how is it open 7 days a week from 7 to 10? What if he is a parent coming to pick up their kid and no one comes to the door? It's because there ain't no kids inside. There are no parents coming up picking up their children here. This is a front business for something else.
The daycare center, it wouldn't just be in some industrialized building. There would be maybe like a playground or something outside. Or
There's no play area for the kids. So where are the kids? Where's anybody? How can there be nobody here? And it's like this every single day. I've never seen a single child here. In 9 years, I've never seen a single child at this building. Right there.
Oh, then now it looks like we already got the Somalis coming through.
Yeah, they're coming. The word's out.
Hello, is this your daycare?
No. Can you tell us why there are no children? Have you ever seen children at this child care center?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Doesn't know.
How you not sure? You about to walk in, but you're not sure. You don't know nothing. You don't know nothing? Okay.
Who's ever seen a child here? All right, let's go to the next location.
And the fraud only gets more from here. Make sure you stay till the very end of this video to see exactly how much fraud we find by the time we are done. And before we go to the next location, I want to show you something super interesting about the flags of Minnesota.
And here.
Okay. Well, you know what? This is important. Let me let him talk. Actually, no, I've passed my timestamp for this. So we're good. So hopefully you guys had an opportunity to see that. What I want to do now, let's talk about the pattern. There's a pattern here where these facilities were licensed for 120 children, but they're serving like no kids. So this is a documented pattern. You have multiple centers registered at the same address. Why? Normally, a local municipality is not going to issue a business license for multiple centers at the same address because they're going to be like, well, no, that's oversaturation. We've got to we've already have a business there. You're going to have to put your business somewhere else. How does this? I'm telling you, I know how this works. I have run, like I said, a business for 11 years. We had 2 locations and a distribution center. So that's 3 places where we had to get an occupancy certificate. And out of all the questions they ask, they already know what other businesses are occupied in close proximity. They ask you so many daggone questions. They know that there's more than one type of business registered at the same address, but they allowed it anyway. Then look at the money, the government money, the massive payouts. But there's no visible operations. And then when confronted, the people act confused and angry. And then suddenly they don't speak no English. The moment that fraud gets mentioned, look at the arrogance. Nothing about this, I don't even want to call it a sting operation. They kind of just rolled up, they pulled up and asked questions. This is not normal behavior for a legit childcare provider. Because if you are a real daycare and a parent shows up like, hey, I'd like to enroll my kid, you don't respond like you're being interrogated at The Hague. You don't do that. You're like, oh, great, that's more business. So usually you're welcomed in. You can get a tour scheduled. Hey, I'm thinking about enrolling little buddy, and can I have a tour? Right? Why are the windows blacked out? So you're telling me you're running a daycare center like a speakeasy, like psst, you got a secret knock, you got a toddler knock on the door 3 times and then whistle? Is that what we got to do to get in? I'm just asking questions. Here's this other clip that I want to show you guys. As soon as I find it.
2025, $1,042,059. In fiscal year 2024, $1,059,078. And in fiscal year 2023, $727,336.
This next one is literally 1 block away, and this one's also generated nearly $3 million in the past 3 years. Let's see if there's any children. Let's see if any of the buildings are open. Here we go. All right, we've arrived to ABC Learning Center. All the windows are blacked out. Let's see if anybody is here. This door is locked.
This facility is licensed for 40 children. 0 children. I've come by this place 100 times. I've never seen a child here, ever. The only thing I've ever seen.
Someone in the chat brought up something very important. Who's the insurance company insuring these facilities, right? I hate to sound as if I'm some subject matter expert when it comes to this, but not only did I own a retail establishment for 11 years, before that, I was in the insurance industry. Okay, I sold insurance and I've worked at the sales level selling policies, property and casualty, as well as life and health insurance. I've also been an underwriter, and I've also been I've been a claims specialist 1, 2, and 3. So know a little bit about the way insurance works. There is no way an insurance company worth their salt, a policy for this is not going to pass underwriting, because as soon as they come up and do the inspection and send the photos, they're going to be like, okay, how many kids are enrolled? This building is not really set up for daycare. How old is the building? Do you have the right? I mean, an insurance company has to manage risk. So that means they're probably, I can't prove this. I don't want this to be like Candace, but an insurance company, if there's insurance on this is not going to get past the underwriting. The agent who's writing this is going to first do their inspection, come out and take pictures and ask a whole lot of questions. They're going to do a facility tour. And then once that application gets sent into underwriting, the underwriter is going to be like, no, why is the windows blacked out? That's a problem. That's a problem. No, they need to take that black paint off the windows, and then they're going to need to do this, and this, and then we might resubmit that application, and then we might approve it. So somebody asked that. I saw that. I can't remember where I saw it, but they asked who was insuring these daycares. Daycares, getting insurance on daycares are expensive, and the underwriting process is extensive. It is. They ask, I mean, you got to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed. Great observation. Wonderful question that somebody brought up. Thank you so much for that.
Seen as someone standing outside smoking.
What's crazy about this is that last daycare center is that green building right there. And the other daycare center right now is right here. These buildings should be operating as they're receiving literally millions of dollars.
I knocked on the door, and to my surprise, somebody actually answered the door.
Hello? Can we speak? I would like to check a child in the daycare.
Why?
Can I speak to a manager?
Did y'all hear the answer? I would like to check a child in the daycare, and the person on the other side of the door said, why? These people were so comfortable operating this fraud in broad daylight and in plain sight that they don't even have prepared responses, because the expectation was, who gonna check me, boo? Who gonna come and roll up on us and question what we're doing? We're Somalians. You didn't know? We run this town. We've got the whole town hemmed up, from the mayor to the school board, to the governor of the state, to the congressional representative, Ilhan Omar, to the attorney general. Who's going to prosecute? He's Muslim, Keith Ellison, and he's a Democrat. Literally, this is a textbook case of who's going to check me, boo. I hope y'all are figuring this out. Try later.
Where can I get paperwork to file for my son? I wanted to put my son Joey in daycare.
And after a few questions, the lady went silent.
Looks like little Joey Shirley ain't going to daycare here. And now where are we going?
Now we're going to Sweet Angel Childcare.
We're in the middle of a strip mall here inside of this neighborhood.
In fiscal year 2025, this facility, which has its license for 74 kids, was paid $1.26 million in tax money. And there are no kids, and all the facilities are the same way, all of them.
Let's see if anyone opens.
Yeah, let's see.
Once again, I tried to find a spot for my son Joey, and they would not open the door.
I want to put my son Joey in daycare. Cause I need a spot to put my son Joey.
Look how all of the windows are boarded up. I mean, this is the most hood rat ghetto janky setup I've ever seen. But here's the other one. This is the one I really wanted you guys to see.
And this fraud is here at this daycare.
Don't open up!
So this is Quality Learning Center. I meant to say Quality Learning Center.
Don't open up!
They said they spelt learning wrong.
Here. Don't open up!
How do you have ice here, ma'am? I'm literally a YouTuber.
Don't open up!
Ma'am, what do you think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
Don't open up! We have ice!
And what do you think about this place being licensed for 99 children
Don't open up!
and getting $4 million
Don't
over
open
the
up! It's ice!
$4 million in the last 2 years?
Go away!
What do you think about that? Are you in
Go
favor?
away!
Are you in favor of that?
Go away!
You know where
You're
the-
not welcome here.
Are you-
Shame on you.
Are you in favor of $1.9
Shame
million
on you. It's
going
ice.
illegally,
Don't open up.
fraudulently to this business that has Quality Learning Center but can't even spell learning right on the door?
Don't open up.
Ma'am, we are not ICE.
I don't care who you are, you don't belong here.
I belong here just like you belong here.
Don't open up. It's ice.
You do realize that there's supposed to be 99 children in here at this building, but there's no one here. This is a child daycare center.
99 children. Paid $1.9 million this year in CCAP funding. Do you know where the children are? Were they kidnapped? They run away? Where are the children? This is state of Minnesota. Right here.
And who are you?
My name's Nick Shirley, ma'am.
And who are you with?
Nick Shirley. Nick Shirley on YouTube.
Yeah, so who are you with here?
Oh, he's just been doing some research investigating the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm with Nick Shirley.
This lady, she's calling us ICE. We're just trying to put law and order back in the streets of the United States. Get rid of all the fraud. Have you ever seen
Now you see this. This part was so rich for me because it's always one. You always got that Karen, right? Notice how Karen comes on the scene out of nowhere. Where did she come from? It is, y'all know me. I'm grown. I say what I want to say, and I don't care who doesn't like it. It is always these white liberals who have to make black folks and immigrants believe that they're the ones there to protect them. So here comes the white savior, the cat lady here, right? She's here as if she's speaking for the Somalians. Talking about don't open up ICE. How are you this debased? How are you this demoralized and reprobate that you are out here claiming that Nick Shirley is with ICE. She doesn't even know that. She's just saying it. What is this lady getting out of this? Standing there running past interference for these Somalians who are stealing her money. It's the reason why this makes me so mad is because you have individuals like the white liberal that you just saw there who thinks, first of all, why is she not at work? Of all the things to support, she's out here doing this. And then she thinks that she's some sort of do-gooder by letting the Somalians know that ICE is here when they're not even with ICE. And Nick is here slapping her with the facts. Like, did you know that this facility got about 1.9, or I can't remember the exact amount, $1 million of taxpayer money, and there's supposed to be 99 children here? Where are the children? And she's just standing there looking like Boo Boo the Fool, just looking stupid. Just stupid. In the cold, out there talking about don't open up ICE. Come on, well, who are you with? And he's like, I'm with myself. Like, I'm just Nick. Well, who's that? An American citizen concerned about where our money is going, as if it's not her money too. This is crazy to me. And it's always, it's the white savior complex. And that is what's the white savior complex, the Marxism, the gaslighting, all of that is what's destroying this country. People like her are complicit. And then Democrat leftist policies are what's creating the perfect storm for fraud like this to take place. Like I said, why is she not at work? Here's the bigger issue here. These allegations, what did I just say? The word is allegations. I'm sorry. Y'all know when I get hyped and I start stuttering and my mouth starts moving faster than my brain. But these allegations are not floating around in a vacuum. We've got multiple outlets and officials that have described Minnesota as facing a serious fraud crisis across all kinds of public programs. And you got federal prosecutors who have brought recent cases and charges tied to Medicaid-adjacent programs. So they know that this is happening. So Nick's footage is not some random conspiracy. It's a visual on-ramp for the public, you and I, to understand what weak controls look like in real life. So I wanted to this is about a 40 minutes video that Nick has put up here. And I'm glad that he did it. It's gone incredibly viral, as it should. And now I got to get a little spicy just for a minute. And the reason why I need to is because every time the left gets caught running a sloppy system, which everything they do and everything they touch is riddled with fraud and theft, they start chanting their favorite lines, such as, well, our immigration system is just a little complicated, and this whole little situation is so nuanced, and perhaps we need a task force to study this and have maybe like 10 hearings and a working group. And I'm like, nope, stop right there. Wrong. What we need are handcuffs and audits. Because Minnesota leaders have been under pressure as these fraud allegations blow up publicly, and the public discourse surrounding it is now openly demanding accountability from state leadership. We need some people to go to jail. That's what I'm advocating for. And what's wild is how quickly some officials have tried to turn this into, well, fraud happens everywhere. When it comes to Medicaid, fraud is happening in every state. Yes, you're right. Fraud does happen everywhere. Yes, it does. Why? Sinners exist everywhere. But the question is, why is it so easy in Minnesota? Why are there addresses with dozens where one facility where there was 2 located in the same place, never seen a child? One place had 14 healthcare facilities with the same address, and another location had 22. Why are they all allowed to have similar or the same address operating in the same facility? And why aren't these programs paying out without some sort of meaningful verification. So y'all just writing the check. That's what we're doing with our money. We've already seen federal action in other Minnesota fraud cases. Earlier, I mentioned that Feeding Our Future program. Prosecutors, when they addressed that situation, they talked about how there was this extensive scheme that was exploiting federal child nutrition funds where they were just, the EBT, that they were just getting the money. And one particular guy that was exposed was using EBT money to buy food for his restaurant. So that might be a thing, but I'm really not interested in hearing that everybody does it because that doesn't make it right. I'm interested in who keeps letting it happen. That's who I'm interested in talking about. Now, the next part that I want to talk about is where my patience just leaves the chat. So help me, Holy Ghost, okay? Because the question that so many of us are asking is, why is Nick Shirley, a YouTuber with a camera and some courage and a backbone, why is it that he did more on the ground than the Democrat Attorney General, Keith Ellison, the Waltz administration, who've managed to have entire taxpayer funded, they've got the whole machine of y'all's money behind them. And you want me to believe that nobody noticed. Y'all must really think we were born last night. You want me to believe that billions of dollars are just moving through these programs, addresses just stacked with providers and daycares that have no kids, services with no verification, and the people in charge were just, oh my goodness, I was today years old when I've learned this. No, ma'am, no, sir. Nobody believes you because federal prosecutors are out here. They're saying that the fraud in Minnesota with the Medicaid related services is upwards to $9 billion or more. $9 billion just don't slip through the cracks. Okay? And these high-risk programs cost about $18 billion. At least that's how much have been spent since 2018. So at bare minimum, this is what it looks like when a system is run like a charity drive with no adult supervision, no accountability, and somebody's getting a kickback on the back end. That's what I believe. That is my opinion. And I think somebody should look into that because this is what Democrats do when they get caught. They don't answer questions. No, they just reframe the question. They're not interested in stopping fraud. They just complain about your tone. Well, Donald Trump is just a xenophobic racist, right? There they go throwing out the racist instead of, no, you're going to deal with the claims on their own merit. Let's talk about the fraud. Leave the racism conversation for another day. They don't stop fraud. They're involved in the fraud. They never clean house. They protect the house. This type of scheme does not go on without somebody looking the other way. The inspectors, the people who issue the business licenses, all of the regulatory layers that are in place, everybody had to look the other way. Why? Because this house of cards was super profitable. Everybody was getting a cut. And if you look hard enough, I can guarantee you're going to find more. You are absolutely going to find more because when government becomes a cash pipeline, it turns into the world's easiest money laundering machine. You got the contracts and the vendors, all the nonprofits, the NGOs and the providers and the community partners. They're all feeding at the trough of the taxpayer, just munching, getting fat off the land with our money. And this is why, do y'all remember when Doge was first implemented and they discovered all of that with USAID? This is why the left went nuclear. Every time we mention fraud, waste, and abuse, they lost their ever-loving minds. They did not want to have that conversation because some folks, they're not mad that fraud exists. They're mad that somebody's auditing it. Somebody, what you doing worried about where we sending that money? I was banking on that money because I need that money to keep my other fraudulent business going over here. Notice how it was just Democrats was getting real nervous and sweating under the armpits when we started talking about USAID and Doge. Talking about, well, Doge is going to have access to people's personal information. I'm like, nah, pimping. That is not what you guys were worried about. You weren't worried about that. You were worried about getting found out. And now you're getting found out. And yes, we watched the national fight over Doge and USAID. It played out like a cage match this year. Do y'all remember that? Now, the attention right now was put on Minnesota, but let's talk about public schools. We saw a very similar kind of kickback situation happen in public education up in Chicago. When public education has become, it is a vendor ecosystem. That's what it is. The money doesn't follow the child. No, it follows the contracts. Then you've got all the consultants, right? The curricula programs, and then the equity departments. And don't forget, political alliances. Yes, that is why they hate school choice. Competition breaks that whole cartel up. And the teachers' unions, we got two, the NEA and the AFT, they overwhelmingly back Democrats. Like 99% of their money goes to Democrats. Democrats in their political spending and their endorsements get their money from the teachers' union. All you got to do, the whole situation in Chicago right now with Brandon Mayor Johnson, the reason why he ain't got no money for stuff, see, he had promised all of his educational cronies, he had promised them something. And they were not expecting Donald Trump to win. They were expecting for Joe Biden to bail them out. So he spent all the money on the illegals and then assumed that, oh, we can spend this money because Joe will send us more money so that we can cover the shortfall. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen. And now he's stuck. He's in a deficit. And so he figured, oh, it's no big deal. We'll just raise the property taxes for the constituents in Chicago. And now they're fighting back like, no, sir, that's not going to happen. You got to get this money from somewhere else. So he's stuck. But this is what you voted for when you vote for Democrats. I hope you notice what you asked for this. This is why we can't balance the budget. This is why Democrats, they don't ever want to cut spending. Y'all did some research. And I was talking to my political strategist, and who happens to be my client and a good friend of the family, Vince Everett Ellison. And he reminded me that this country has not had a balanced budget since the Clinton years. Democrats do not want to cut spending, y'all. Every time we do a budget, the Democrats, this is what I learned. I learned that the GOP, they're focused on defense spending. So the agreement that the GOP and the Democrats have is the GOP is like, listen, okay, for every $2 that we get in defense spending, the Democrats get $1 for their social spending. The only way the GOP will get money for defense spending, they got to give Democrats $1 for social spending, because Democrats don't care about the military. They could care less if this country is blown up by whoever and whenever. They don't care. They care about giving people and themselves free stuff. That is the main difference between these two political operatives. So in order to get a budget passed, Republicans don't really have a choice but to agree to this foolishness. And this is why we have not had a balanced budget since the Clinton years, y'all. Democrats don't give a darn about you. If the country implodes, they're happy because they're like, listen, they want to move to a socialist society anyway. They want to keep people dependent. They don't want you free. So the reason why I know that they don't want you free, ask a Democrat their position on school choice, right? When it comes to you getting access to your tax dollars so that you can choose the educational outcomes for your own children, they start tweaking. They're like, oh, Lord. They like vampires with garlic. They can't handle it. You will literally hear them start screeching like banshees against school choice. And it's because they're not worried about the children. It's because they're worried about the money. That is the reason. So I thought it was interesting when I was covering this. I was curious. I was like, well, where's Roly Poly? Like the fat furry Roland Martin. I was like, where is he on this whole Somalian fraud situation? Like, why is he so quiet? Why is CNN eerily quiet on this? They're quiet because when the scam doesn't serve the narrative, all of the civil rights pro wokety woke blackety blacks, they got to turn into civil rights ventriloquists. Their mouth is moving, but they're void of the truth. Truth is just missing. Y'all, this is the same sickness. Like I said, we're watching this in Chicago. Brandon Johnson, he bet the house on a federal bailout. This is why he was like, we're a sanctuary city, and you're welcome here, right? He turned your schools into little housing stations, gave all those illegals EBT, housing, all kinds of money, burned through the money, and when their money ran out, he was in the back piling up obligations to his teacher friends. But now the math is not mathing. And it's not looking good for the city of Chicago, which is why I'm telling you, this is not just a Minnesota situation. This is a Democrat governance story. And as a matter of fact, here is a link. I'm going to send you guys. This is super important. If you guys want a handbook or a blueprint to fully understand this Democrat crime syndicate that we're watching, I got a resource for you. This is like Christmas it's come late, but it's better late than never. So let me go ahead and get it. Here is a link to a treatise. This is what I'm calling it. It is a treatise on how these Democrats operate. Crime Inc. I just popped it in the chat. If you guys can, any of my moderators ever so often, go ahead and post the link. You need to go and grab this book. My client, Vince Everett Ellison, he has been warning about this kind of corruption for years and wrote a whole book about it. Literally, it's called Crime Inc. And the book lays out how all these networks operate politically, the power plays, the profit, all. It's literally like he's reverse engineered everything that the Democrats do. And this is why we call it a crime syndicate. You need to get that book. You're welcome, but you need to get that book. Matter of fact, buy the book for any of your liberal, left-leaning friends who don't understand why you're a conservative. It's because of this. You need to let them know that you love them enough that they need to be red-pilled, and Crime Inc. is the best gift you could give them this Christmas. So, now that I've given you that little cheat code into understanding the way this whole the little operation works, the usual suspects, they are eerily quiet, like I said, such as your Roland Martins. And I'm trying to figure out, is this not Democrat news? Like, if he's covered this, maybe I missed it. Maybe I'm not looking hard enough. Somebody let me know. Did Roland Martin cover this with his audience and break the news, or is he quiet? Leave a 1 if you are aware of Roland Martin covering this. I'll wait. I'll be incredibly patient. Leave a 1 if Roland has covered this, or a 2 if you're like, I've seen no coverage from Roland Martin on this topic. Y'all let me know. Now, somebody, Ginger and Juice, said Roland is trying to find a way to make it a system against the black and browns narrative. Absolutely. He won't address the fraud, just the imaginary race war in this scenario. Absolutely. Absolutely, I agree. I absolutely agree. Now, y'all not following directions. I don't see no ones or no twos. Okay, I see a few twos. Here we go. I forgot there's a delay. Pardon me being so abrupt. Y'all know I'm impatient. So I haven't seen a one, but we've seen some twos. We've seen some twos. Shout out to you, Ginger and Juice. Let me go ahead and grab some of these super chats. We have here, what did I miss? Shout out to all right, our Brooklyn. Thank you so much for that super chat. I appreciate your support tonight. We also have Cooler King, who says Malcolm X warned people of the white liberal. He absolutely did. They are not your friend. And I'm not trying to tell you that you should be racist toward the white liberal. What you do is you need to recognize who the white liberal is and deal with them accordingly. But the white liberal is no different than the black liberal, but they might be worse. The white liberal is worse. Absolutely worse. Yeah. They're both problematic, but they're problematic in for different reasons. But thank you so much for that super chat. Bobby, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, try again. Not quite sure what that is in relationship to, but I do appreciate your support tonight. We also have Greg Williams. Sends a super sticker of $19.99. Thank you so much for your contribution tonight. I am so grateful for all of the support you guys send me to keep this show alive and well. My girl, Sister Ruth says, meanwhile, April, property taxes for Minneapolis, Hennepin County, and state taxes are increasing. Well, of course. They need you to take care of your Somali brethren. They got to get the money from somewhere. My question is, what are y'all going to do about it? Now, we've got Chicago Flips Red. They are actively doing something in their jurisdiction to fight against this oppressive regime. You guys need a Minneapolis Flips Red. Now, y'all got an uphill battle because there's a whole lot of Somalians up there, and they are running things. But I'm trying to understand how y'all allow these people to subvert in local politics and get and amass this much power. Y'all, we let this happen. It's a problem. Shout out to Jennifer, who sends a super sticker. Thank you so much for your support tonight as well. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah, Roland does need an encounter with Jesus. So the reason why I brought him up, because usually when a story like this breaks, you have your pro-wokety woke blackety black commentators who love talking about protecting the community and justice and resources, but they don't have anything to say, because when there's a narrative that they can use to screen racism, they're the first in line. But when there's actually a scandal where American taxpayers, including Black taxpayers, are potentially being fleeced through public programs, they ain't got nothing to say. In fact, they're probably sitting back trying to figure out, why we ain't think of that. I'm out here hustling and shilling for these Democrats. I could have been involved in some darn daycare centers and home health programs and autistic facilities. I should have thought of that. That's probably what he's thinking. I'm just saying. And the reason why, these people, their worldview does not allow them to admit truth, such as you can't build a community on victimhood while ignoring corruption. They can't do it. So let me say this carefully and very clearly. This is not, for all of you who have one-track hearing, who think that I'm trying to punish an ethnic group, this is about punishing criminals and holding public servants accountable for negligence or complicity. And if it just so happens to be levied at a particular group who all come from the same place, then oh well, so be it. But if you're a law-abiding Somalian immigrant, you should be furious too, because one, they're making you look bad. And then two, these criminal networks, they don't just steal money. They poison public trust, and they bring heat down on everybody else. So if you're like, I don't want to be lumped in and associated with these people, my question is why you're not speaking up. Now I understand that there's a clan mentality and it's a very tight-knit group of a community and they tend to stick together, but what is right and wrong is wrong. That's what I'm saying. And so we're not going to hear Roland Martin have anything to say about this because the race hustlers, they don't want solutions. They want rage. They want grants for themselves and they want the oppression cosplay, but they don't want the accountability. So they're not going to say anything about this. But if you're a Black Democrat shill who magically can't speak when the scam is obvious, I see you. I see you out here fronting like you're a journalist, but you're not a journalist. You are a narrative employee that spends his or her time protecting Democrats. And we're sick of it. Or at least I know I am. That's why I call them out. Dwayne, how come I don't invite Roland on my channel or go on his channel? Well, now I saw Kathy Barnett spar recently with Roland Martin, and she told him a new one. And the thing about Roland is he tried with Kathy Barnett, former Senate candidate from Pennsylvania. Roland has a bad habit of trying to dominate and control the conversation and overtalk you. And Kathy did a very good job of putting him in his place and telling him, what, you don't invite me on your show and then try to dominate the conversation and don't let me speak. I am going to say what I need to say. So it was hostile, but it needed to be said. If Roland invited me on his show, I would absolutely go, but I could guarantee you he's going to try the same tactic with me. He's going to try to deflect and shift the blame and want to make the conversation about Trump. And I'm like, no, what we're talking about right now is this Democrat fraud up in Minneapolis that you've been silent about. Of all the problems that you're concerned about, you're awfully concerned about racism, but your own people are being taken to the woodshed and being taken advantage of by your party, and you don't have anything to say about it. So I don't want to hear your pro-Black speeches, and nobody believes you. I would tell him the same thing I'm telling him now, but perhaps you should reach out to him. Tell him to email me, April@unshakablewithapril.com, to invite me on the show. I will gladly go. Absolutely, I would. And I'm going to tell him the same thing that I say on my own platform. He's a fraud. He don't care about Black people. And all he cares about is protecting Democrats. Set it up. Holla at your girl. Okay? Yeah, I'm not going to let him do that to me. I'm not going to let him do that to me. That's not going to happen. So, as always, you guys, let's spend some time and anchor this biblically, because as Christians, we need proper categories. So the first scripture I want to bring up, because scripture doesn't treat theft like it's some sort of policy disagreement. No, theft is sin, and the scriptures treat it as such. You shall not steal. That's an imperative. That's a command. We're also told a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. That is Proverbs 11, verse 1. So, knowing these biblical imperatives, we even have a New Testament example. John the Baptist is telling the tax collectors, collect no more than you're authorized to do. We see that in Luke 3, verse 13. So basically, fraud is just theft with paperwork. It's still theft. It's stealing while wearing a tie and calling it services. And so if public officials are going to continue to enable this, whether through cowardice or incompetence or strategic political calculation, that's not leadership that you want. Those are individuals that's a dereliction of duty. And so my question is, now that I've covered this, why are there Christians or people who claim to identify with the Lord Jesus keep voting for these darn Democrats? Can someone explain that to me? These people play in your face. They steal your money. right? They're giving it to whole people groups. You get nothing, and it's your money. How are there Christians who claim to be Christians and Democrat that keep supporting these people who are lying thieves? How do you explain your support? They're stealing from you. They're literally coming in your house, robbing you blind, robbing your children's future. And they're doing about, listen, they are literally allowing these dusty foot Somalians to do it. I'm sorry, it's true. Ain't no way. No, these people came over here after decimating and destroying their own country and then have taken advantage of our kindness. They got the nerve, when confronted, don't want to answer questions. And here I am, a citizen in this country who, yes, had to shut my business down during Biden's economy and had to deal with all of the bureaucratic tape. Couldn't even, like I said, put up a banner to advertise a sale at my own establishment without paying money for a permit for a banner. And these people got a whole fake daycare where they can't even spell learning right. And they just get to cheat. And you kidding me? You don't think I'm taking this personal? And you don't think I'm looking at Black Democrats like, this is your fault? You vote for these people because you listen to pulpit pimps, these Black civil rights workers, and these community organizers weaponize race to where you turn off your brain and can't even see that these people are stealing right in front of your face. This is why I am always using my platform to help you guys understand we don't worship government. Big government is a trap. The government is not God. Anytime you make the state and you put them in a position where they become the provider and the protector for everybody, people become dependent. And the whole system is where the politicians, they buy votes with benefits. And then you get all of this bureaucratic red tape. But they'll rubber stamp. They'll just send the money so that the fraudsters and the scammers who they know will find loopholes, and they look the other way, and the taxpayers become the permanent mark. We're always the one left holding the bag. That is the philosophy of Democrat politics. More programs, more money, more expansion. Spend some time and think about it. All you have to do, look at Ilhan Omar at the congressional level, who, in my opinion, is a fraud and a scammer herself. In order for this money to come into the district, they have to have a congressional representative. She gets the money. Then you got the mayor out here and his lying self. He looks the other way. Then you have the governor and the attorney general all looking the other way. And at the municipality, whoever runs the county, they look the other way. Whoever issues the business licenses, they look the other way. And whoever is the insurance company that are involved, they're probably all using the same insurance provider. They look the other way. When you have this many people, they are in on the scam, who lack morals and who want you to think that they're the compassionate ones. Do you know what you end up getting? You, the American citizen, you get plundered. You get plundered. And then what happens? The same politicians who created the conditions for this fraud will say, well, we need more money to fix the fraud. You're like, how so? How did we get that you need more money to fix the fraud? How does that work? That's like an arsonist offering to sell the fire insurance. No, thank you. We don't want it from you. Y'all, this has to stop. This needs to stop. And it is difficult for me to calm down because when I start thinking about everything in the 11 years that we owned our business, that we had to go through just to do the basics. And when I think about other small business owners that I know who have jump through all kinds of hoops just to put their key in the door to earn a living. And these jokers out here putting up signs with misspellings. How did they get a permit for a sign and can't spell learning? When I had to get my sign, these people wanted a whole professional rendering of what the sign was going to look like. What was the colors? What colors we were going to use? What was it going to say? Who was going to install the sign? It took months to get a sign permit. These fools done put a sign up and can't even spell learning. Don't tell me they didn't know. They absolutely knew. They knew. So, what do we think should happen next? Right? If we're going to discuss some level of accountability, what would that even look like? And so it's easy for me to come on here and rant, and I do enjoy a good rant, okay? Because sometimes you get, I've been holding this in for a while. I had to get it out, right? But I've come up with a list of things that would help us to imagine what accountability would look like. Number one, I think that we should have immediate payments withheld for providers that raise red flags. Like, I don't know, you got two daycares in the same strip plaza and the windows are kind of blacked out. That would be a red flag, right? So just cut the money off, turn off the spigot, withhold the money, right? Two, put some verification, real verification in place, right? Like enrollment checks, do site visits, make them provide service documentation. So that means you'd have to do an audit. You would need to physically go there unannounced, so they don't have time to prepare for the audit. You just show up. Why don't you see how many kids showed up today? I can guarantee you none of this stuff is up to code. Y'all, for all we know, they in here cooking crack. It could be a meth lab. They could be cooking crack. They could be laundering weapons back to Somalia. We don't know what they're doing. We have no idea because nobody is checking. Number three, we should have some prosecutions. Prosecutions for the fraud, the money laundering, and anybody who got a kickback. Prosecute them. Put them in jail. Now, that's going to be kind of hard because the Attorney General, Keith Ellison, is a Muslim. Okay, so he's a Muslim sympathizer. Like, who's going to, at the state level, is going to prosecute? So, solution number three of prosecutions is nice, but who can you trust to prosecute when you got all these soft on crime? You've got these judges and then your Attorney General. I'm pretty sure it looked the other way too. I don't know. I ain't got a solution for that one. I'll let you know, and I will come back to that when I do. Number four, clawbacks. Take the daggone money back. Be like, oh, yeah, well, now that we've detected there's been some fraud, we're just going to go in your account and take it. Take it back. Do like they did Stacey Abrams and claw that money back. Or appeal to the bank, who was the intermediary, and say, we need to put a freeze on this account till we kind of figure out what's going on. Just snatch it back. I think that's a good idea. What do you guys think? I don't know. I think that's a good idea. Number five, we need some public transparency. So we should have a list, publish provider lists, the addresses, the payouts, and then enforce some action. So the citizen journalist that we watched and looked at has dedicated a lot of time, and he's personally invested, was able to pull up, according to the state program, how much money each of these locations received. So we should have some more public transparency. And then, if any of this money is tied to overseas extremist groups, which we have reason to believe that it is, that's not only a national security issue. It's not, some talking point, but somebody needs to be formally investigated and looked into that, because that means we're funding our own terror to be used against us. That's what I'm saying. So Nick Shirley walked up to these locked doors. The man asked a basic question. Where are the kids? Where are the baby kids? Okay, where are they? And the system responded the way guilty people do. Anger, deflection, immediately intimidated. They called the police. I didn't show y'all one clip Where the police showed up, was like, hey, we're gonna have to, say that you're trespassing. You don't really have a right to be here. And he was like, well, actually, I was trying to get some healthcare rates. And the lady's like, well, he's not here to get rates. And my thing is, well, if the police are here and he's asking for the rates, just give him the rates. They don't have anything to give him because that's not what they do there. But you would think the police would be a little concerned, like, well, can't you just give him what he's asking for? Somebody's paying somebody to look the other way. If you were in Minnesota, you better demand some answers. You cannot wait for someone else to do this. Why not you? Why not today or tomorrow? Write some letters, do something. But if you're not in Minnesota, don't get comfortable. We've already seen someone in the live chat saying this is happening in Washington State. And if this can happen in Minnesota, that means it can happen anywhere. So I'm curious to know from you guys, do you think that officials who knowingly enable this kind of fraud should face some sort of criminal penalties? Because I think they should. I absolutely do. I'd be curious to hear from you guys in the chat. I've been on here for an hour and a half, and this particular topic I spent a little bit more time on because this is major. That is a lot of money for all of these front businesses that we have no idea what these people are doing. And the sad part about it is the media is not going to cover this honestly, and it took a citizen journalist or a YouTuber, whatever you want to call him, to expose this. And his safety is at risk. And I am told that there is a security firm that Brandon Tatum owns where they kind of pool money and resources together to provide security for YouTubers and content creators. And I can't remember the name of it, but if you remember the name of it, someone put it in the chat. We all should just try to put a little something in their coffers because these darn Somalians are violent. They are vicious. And now that they know who he is and that this is being investigated, do not think that they won't listen. I hate to be stereotypical, but y'all seen that movie Pirate? Okay, like they just didn't give a darn. They're like, this is our boat now. His safety is at risk. He is an American and he needs to be protected. Praise God for both of these individuals who had the courage to say America needs to know about this because the media sure is not going to cover it. And so, it's absolutely some mafia style, cabal type setup. They hate America. They only are over here to take advantage of our kindness and to exploit our kindness so that they can build themselves up. Because the country of Somalia it's a hellhole. Okay? And they want America to fail. They want to infiltrate from the inside and cause harm to us after they've earned our trust is when they'll strike. I absolutely do believe that. And so, why is my mouse don't want to cooperate? Are y'all fighting about something? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to keep up. Bot in the chat. Oh, okay. People are free to have opinions, but being rude and disrespectful is not tolerated. So, y'all got to do what y'all got to do. Anyway, I am okay. All these emotions, okay? Better than what? Are the Somalians not the ones behind the fraud? If you don't have the emotional intelligence to know that I can't have or move a conversation forward if we're going to major and say, well, there's a Somalian over there who's not involved in that. Well, duh. Adults have conversations about in generalities. In this community, it is the Somalian community that's been implicated in the fraud. So why am I going to sit and have a whole conversation and focus on the one Somalian over there who like, I ain't got nothing to do with that? Like, are you slow? Adult, to move a conversation forward, you have to speak in generalities, and it's assumed and understood that we're not talking about every single Somalian that has ever existed without distinction. So you can come over here with your distraction, but you're the one that sounds dumb, because I already mentioned in my commentary that if there are Somalians who are not involved in this, everyone who knows the Somalian culture, there are clan factions and they don't all get along. We're talking about the ones in Minnesota. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about people who've come here the right way. How do you know how many Somalians that I personally know that are not offended by my commentary because they know that I'm not talking about them? Grow up. If you can't engage in meaningful discussion without being emotionally wrapped into the fact that we're better than this, says what? I'm an American. I want to put the needs of Americans first. I have a very strict worldview when it comes to immigration. If you're not coming over here to assimilate and to add value, I don't give a darn where you're from. You could be from Somalia, Uganda, Ethiopia. I don't care. I don't want you here. I don't want people coming here who, if you see America as the land of opportunity, that is great. But you need to come over here to add value and to assimilate and to be American, not to make this mini Somalia. That's what we're not doing. If you don't understand that veracity and the passion that I have for my country, maybe you should go over there and you go have some dual residency, or matter of fact, just give up your American citizenship and go move to Somalia. I bet you'll come back crying, talking about God bless America, and you'll be on your knees kissing this terra firma. Don't come over here with that foolishness. People with a thinking brain know exactly what I'm talking about. You, sir, ma'am, or shim, whatever, are being a distraction. So if you want to have an intelligent debate, we got to have some baseline rules. We're not talking about every single Somalian without distinction. We're talking about the clan faction and community in Minnesota that is responsible for all of these shell businesses, but they're not providing any services. It'd be no different than me as a Black person. I'm not going to take personal offense if they say all you Black people do is like to fight. I don't fight. I can go to a restaurant, sit down, enjoy a meal, and see two Black people over there fighting, and I already know I have nothing in common with those people. So when someone is speaking generally, that doesn't include me. I'm not them. Do you see how that works? It's no different than y'all try to say all white folks are racist. Is that true? No. There's context to it. So let's do better. Let's do better. And I'm sorry I had to get like wild and crazy with it, but you just sound dumb. You do. Okay, sometimes you just got to call a spade a spade. Now, if you stupid, that's not my fault, but do better. Anyway, just stuck on stupid for no reason. They come over here. Like, if this is not the content for you, shake the daggone dust off of your feet and take your dusty behind over to Somalia. They would gladly accept you, rob you, and then leave you for dead, but I'm just saying. Right. Anyway, today is Monday, you guys. Like I said, I covered the TX30 district congressional race is heating up. Their primary is coming up in February. You've got two Republican candidates that I'm aware of to choose from. You have Sheldon Daniels, who I've had on the show earlier this year. And then you've got Everett Jackson, who is also at least a 25, 30-year Republican who's thrown his hands in the race. Then you've got the Democrat. On the Democrat side, you have Freddie Haynes, the pulpit pimp who is running, who happens to be Jasmine Crockett's pastor. And then there's another Democrat contender. So the primary is in February. Hopefully, we hope the best man wins, but we shall see. I don't know. If you live in Texas, please keep me up to date and abreast on the race, and if there's a debate scheduled between the GOP candidates and the Democrat candidates, I'd love to see that. That would be some made for TV. That would be interesting to watch. So anyway, I love you guys with the love of the Lord. I will try to go live on Wednesday. We'll see. I have a video that I think will drop tomorrow. Let me just give you guys a little hint as to what it's about. And I have to give a disclaimer because I recently came across a Washington Post article that was celebrating the government getting involved in terms of subsidizing childcare. And they profiled this one particular business that was celebrating this government-sponsored childcare subsidy and how it just was so wonderful and really helped them to attract quality talent and all the things. And I walked away from that article not in support and celebrating the conclusions that it came to at all. And in fact, I am taking an opposing view in how I don't think that the government should subsidize childcare. And the reason why is because of my thoughts on anytime the government gets involved, things go left. And that this is going to be sold to people as a right, something that the government should do. But my position is the opposite. And I'd be interested in you guys tuning into tomorrow's episode because I'm going to reveal to you why it's not good, why it is a trap, and why it's being sold to you as the best thing since sliced bread so that moms and dads can go to work and earn a living. But at the end of the day, it is slavery by another name. And so I am going to defend that position. I'm going to share a personal anecdotal story as to why I am against government subsidized childcare and what the implications of implementing such a program would look like in real time. And so I'm giving a disclaimer though, because if you are a mom and a working mom at that, or you are in your childbearing years and or you've just had a baby and you work, my goal in this video wasn't to offend, and I hope people hear my heart in that. But I do share a personal anecdotal story so that you'll know that it's coming from a good place. And it's also coming from a distinctively Christian worldview that is not popular, which is mommies sacrifice for the good of their children. And oftentimes that means sacrificing personal comfort for the well-being and the flourishing of your own kids. So tomorrow, that video will drop. Don't know what time it's going to drop. I still have to finish editing it, but I recorded it today. I might add something to it, but it's a really good show, and it's very controversial. And I will probably lose subscribers over it, especially if you're a modern woman and think you can have it all. You ain't going to like what I got to say about this government-sponsored childcare. So until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace. Well, hold on. Let me make sure I didn't miss a super chat because last time I did that, I'm not trying to hurt people's feelings. So let me see. I think I did. I did miss some super chats. Oh gosh, where we go? Here we go. Just a big up one. Not sure what that means. Thank you for your super chat. Carasquilo one. I don't think I'm saying that right. I butchered that terribly, but the enemy is already inside. We have a problem. 4 years of letting the door open. I agree. I agree. Thank you so much for your super chat. We've got another one. Cameron Peterson, thank you so much for this super chat. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness. That is Isaiah 5:20. I agree. Whenever you have people who can figure out a way to label evil good, that's when you know you are dealing with someone under divine judgment. So they will try to figure out a way to make it good when it's like you can't put that round peg in that square hole. So thank you. Who said that? Grace. Everybody in Somalia is not a thief, just like every black man is not a criminal. Where did I say that? Don't recall saying that at all. Like I said, we have to have a mature conversation. And there's context to this discussion. We're talking about Somalians in Minnesota that are implicated in this fraud, and they happen to be a member of a particular community. So, do we judge on appearances? No. I gave qualifying ways for us to figure out how we should discern this. Number one, when I talked about what accountability looks like, I said, withhold immediate payments for providers with red flags. So that doesn't mean that you target every Somalian business, but you treat everybody the same without being impartial. But you do need to use one of the context clues, which is they are Somalian. We have to get to the point where in an effort to say, well, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. How else are we going to determine where the fraud lies? And I'm not saying it's only Somalians that are doing this, but this widespread ring of fraud happens to be in a community that fits that criteria. So you apply a standard across the board and say, okay, well, we know what we're looking for. The ones that show red flags, then you move forward. The ones where everything check out, we appreciate you being compliant. We're on our way. But I can't even understand why I have to defend this. This is an emotional argument that's not rooted in reality. Because as a Christian, we don't show partiality on the basis of something arbitrary. We have probable cause here. Can we put our thinking caps on? Can we try? Like just a little bit? Like, come on, y'all. Y'all doing the most. And I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, Michelle, Charlie, Jones. I'm just saying. I need you to help me out here. You can't possibly walk away from this discussion thinking that I believe that every Somalian is bad. Just like I don't think that every Mexican is an illegal immigrant. I don't think that. But you're saying never a distraction, always trying to learn. You changed my worldview. I just had an opinion as a veteran of this country, period, not in support and celebrating the conclusion. Okay, I get that. But I don't believe I was extended that same grace in this assumption that I'm saying, let's hunt down every Somalian and send them back home. Some of these people came here the right way. They came here the right way. Many of them operate legitimate businesses. But this is a problem, and we're going to have to put the you don't want to be called racist aside. How are we going to solve this problem if we don't look at the context clues and say, all right, in this community, they have figured out a way to game the system. We wouldn't even have to apply any level of partiality here's the thing, if we just did the basics. What are the basics? All of the same rules apply to everyone. To get a business license for this class of business, you've got to have this, and this, and it's got to check out. Well, it's clear that these businesses weren't required to meet that. They're breaking all kinds of zoning violations. Their windows are blacked out. How do you operate a daycare with blacked out windows? And then when people come to enroll little Joey, you're like, no, not today. Were you just expecting us to turn a blind eye to that? I hope not. But at some level, there's a breakdown in this system because there's partiality being applied here on the basis of, well, because they're Somalian, we're going to give them the pass because we don't want nobody to say that we're racist. My question is, are there white daycare centers and black daycare centers and Asian daycare centers? Do they have the same standard? Are they able to operate reckless like this, where people just turn a blind eye and act like they don't see anything? My commentary stands regardless of the ethnicity, but the context in this conversation absolutely has to do with this Somalian community and the fact that they have a representative who has made it very clear that she does not stand for America. Ilhan Omar absolutely despises this country, and she is advocating for the best interests of Somalia, not America. Now, if you have an opposing argument for that, we can have a conversation about it, but I don't think I'm wrong there. I don't think I'm wrong. Thank you, Sarah Kelly, for your super chat tonight. And hear me, Lachelle Charlie Jones. I understand that my tone can be incredibly aggressive when I have firmly fixed my square on a position. I know that about myself. It's not being me. It's not me being mean. It literally is, it comes from a place of conviction and a concern that you're not hearing me and you're hearing something else that I'm not saying. And that you're not saying, as a Christian, how do we avoid getting emotionally manipulated by people who use our Christian kindness for weakness? And then how do we also balance that by not implicating an entire people group? Which I don't believe that's what I was doing, but for the purpose of this conversation, when I talk about Somalians, I apologize if your expectation is for every time I bring up the Somalians that I have to say, not all, but the ones implicated here. I don't have time to do that. And I don't believe that it's warranted or necessary, because the context of this conversation should dictate for all those in my hearing, oh, we know who she's talking about. We know. It is sinful for me to be what the world would call racist. That is called showing partiality on the basis of ethnicity. God has dealt with that sin in my heart. And so I'm not going to accept that type of claim being levied against me. But what I would like for us to do is to operate in some wisdom and maturity, and to at least have some basic baseline things understood, so that when we talk about these things, people are not saying, well, not all Somalians are bad. Well, we know that, duh. For all you know, I go to church with some Somalians. I go to church with a lot of different people of a lot of different ethnicities. And they'll be the first ones to tell me you get to watch them. Okay? I'm just saying. We have a whole Somalian community at my old church where we've evangelized that community, and we've actually happened to learn a lot about them. And in one particular part of Atlanta, in Clarkston, it is a heavy concentration of them. Most of them work at the DeKalb Farmers Market. My former church did a lot of evangelistic work to get to know this community. And that's why I know so much about them. So, yeah, they wouldn't be offended by this commentary because they know I'm not talking about them. What's going on with this? They know that I'm not talking about them. But anyway, I tried to get off of here 30 minutes ago. I love y'all. All right, so let's do the outro again. Until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Y'all know I love you, and I think it's healthy for us to have these kinds of discussions in dialogue. But if my commentary is too sharp and it offends you, I understand if you don't want to come back. I would just hope that you would. But it's okay to disagree. But come on, we can't be silly. Don't be silly. Anyway, I love you guys. Grace and peace.